Hey everybody, so today I'm in the shop here. I was thinking that I might go over some stuff about axes. We've done a couple videos now where I've used an axe quite a bit. I really like using axes. I think they're a really awesome tool that still has a lot of really cool uses. So I was thinking today I'd go over the two axes that I use most. Go over sharpening in particular. So I have on the workbench here, I have my two axes. So this is a Columbia River knife and tool, tomahawk style hatchet. It probably weighs just under 2 pounds, maybe 1.5 pounds. The handle is 20 inches long. The pole can be used as a hammer. It's hardened and shaped to be used as a hammer. One of the interesting things about tomahawks, or the tomahawk style hatchet instead of an axe, is the way that the head mounts. So you can see here, this is on here, but if I just tap it, I can just pop the head out this direction from the handle. So the handle slides from bottom up to the head, and it's in. And I can use this, but it's also really easy to replace the handle. It just comes right out. So I use this hatchet. You can see the sheath here has a belt loop in it. So I use this hatchet on my belt when I'm going to the woods. I use this one for a lot of smaller work. You might remember this one from the charcoal video. When we were making charcoal, I cut the charcoal wood up with this. So this is like a really good lightweight axe that I use quite a bit. This is my full-size axe made by Granfors Brooks. It's a handmade Swedish axe. It weighs 3.3 pounds. The handle's 31 inches. This is a really awesome axe that I've actually just started using. I got it this summer. So I haven't gotten a ton of use out of it yet, but I've really liked what I've seen of this. You can see it's a lot bigger. So this is like the axe if I'm working in the woods cutting firewood. I'll do some limbing with this axe, particularly when the footing's a little bit dangerous to be using a chainsaw. One of the cool things about Granfors Brooks is that all these axes are handmade, and this is other than just this silver part that you can see here, this is how it comes off the forge. So, and as being handmade, the smith actually puts their initials in, and you can look it up. So I know the name of the smith that made this axe, which is pretty cool. It's a really well made product. So as you see with both of these, both my axes are in leather sheaths, and they stay in leather sheaths. This is really important because I keep my axes really, really sharp, and to protect both the blade and anybody handling it when it's not in use. The sheath is really, really important. But when I come in every day from the woods, or almost every day, sometimes I don't get to it, especially if there's still a bunch left. So I oil the metal of all of these. So I have a little bottle here. If you ride mountain bikes, you might recognize this is a Stan's No Tube bottle that I wrap masking tape around. But what's in this bottle is just linseed oil. It's just an easier way for me to apply it. So I use this in a rag and wipe down the metal on all my tools when I come in from the woods, particularly my axes, but also my PV. So that's sort of just like daily maintenance. I'm always doing that after I sharpen them every time they get oiled, and this really helps keep the rust off, keeps the blade nice. Other than that, I sharpen them almost also every time I go to the woods. I'll run them over with a stone. I have a stone on the wall behind me here. This is actually a size sharpening stone. It's a wet stone that has a smooth that has a flat side. Because it's a size stone, it has curved sides, but I use the flat side for the axes. And the sheath for the stone holds water. So just about every time I go to the woods, I'll run that over them, and that puts a nice edge back on them. So I keep them really sharp. That's a big safety thing, actually. The sharper the axe is, the safer it usually is, because when you have a dull axe, you can have it glance off your wood. Right? If I had a log and this axe was dull, it could hit and jump. I don't want that. I want it to actually dig into the wood. And it makes work a lot faster. So it's really important to me that I keep my axes sharp. So I will touch them up pretty much every time I go. And then as they get a little bit duller, I'll run them over with a file. So I'm going to go over that today. Alright, so now I'm over here at the vise. You can see I put a doubled up rag in the vise. This is to protect the head of the axe from the jaws of the vise. So here I'm just going to take my axe and clamp it upright in the vise. And I don't want it to be too tight because I don't want to damage the axe at all. And I want to stay off the direct sides of the eye of the axe here. So the eye is where the handle goes into the axe. So I want to stay off the sides of the eye there. So I just want to clamp the pole in the vise. So the blade's upright, and this really helps me be able to sharpen it easy. This one's actually pretty sharp right now, so I'm not going to do too much to it, just sort of go over it. So I got it clamped in the vise here, and I got my file and my stone here. Here I have this little piece of paper. This has a 25-degree angle on it. So the bevel of my axe, I want to be 25 degrees for the first quarter inch of the cheek, so I can check the angle of the bevel by putting this little piece of paper with the notch in it over the eye of the axe. And this one's almost perfect all the way down right now. So if it was off in one way or the other, I would want to fix that. But this one's pretty good down. New axes tend to be much too blunt at the angle. I think when I got this one, it was somewhere around 35 degrees. So I had to bring that bevel down by 10 degrees to get it to the correct bevel angle of 25. And this really just helps the axe cut well, not glance off the wood. And keeping that bevel is really important. If you go too thin on the blade, under 25 degrees, the edge will get brittle and you'll risk snapping it off. Too thick and it won't cut into the wood as well. So let's just sharpen this one a little bit. Touch it up, get a nice good edge on it. Alright, so when you're filing or sharpening an axe, particularly with a file, it's really important to be wearing gloves. Because with the axe in the vise like this, the correct way to sharpen an axe with the file is to push it down towards the blade. And this really helps eliminate your burr, which is the little piece of metal that will be left over after the file right on the edge. So if I was filing up on this, there'd be a little edge of metal that would come up, and every time I went over it with a file, it would bend one way. If I filed on the other side, it would bend the other way, and you can never really get rid of it. So filing this way down towards the blade really helps. You just gotta be careful of your hand, because if you slip, you're going into the blade then. So with this axe, it's pretty good right now, but I'm just gonna go over it a little bit. So nice steady pressure down towards the blade, and I want to keep the file moving along the blade of the axe like this. If I was to just file down in strips, I would end up with an edge that wobbled, and I don't want that. So smooth down the whole time, nice gentle pressure, and you want to start higher on the cheek. So the cheek of the axe is pretty much from about a quarter inch below the edge of the blade to somewhere down in here until the eye starts. It's called the cheek of the axe. So I would want to start down in the cheek down here, so sort of matching like the angle about right here, and then as I file, sharpen towards the blade. And I'm probably not even going to touch the blade with touch the edge with the file, and I'll leave the stone for doing that. Just because when you get close to the edge with the file, you can actually catch the file on the edge and dull little sections of it. And the stone doesn't do that, so the stone's really good for getting that little edge. So I just run it evenly on both sides. File, I want to do this side, and then I'll do the other side. And then I'll go over both sides again with the stone. So now that I'm done any filing that I wanted to do, so now I'm going to use the stone here. So I'm just going to get it wet. It's important to keep it wet. That's how it keeps the metal shavings out of the stone. And then I actually do the stone with a circular motion. So just right on the edge of the blade. I want to still keep that bevel edge, right, that 25-degree angle, as I'm sharpening the edge here. But I can get right up to the edge of the stone, just in a circular motion. And then I want to do that on both sides until it gets nice and sharp. The best way to test for the sharpness on an axe is to drag your thumb lightly across it in perpendicular to the blade. You don't ever want to feel the blade parallel with it, because that's just how you cut yourself. But if you lightly pull your thumb across it, you can feel the edge grab on your skin, and it won't cut you at all, but you can tell sharpness that way, and you can also tell if there's any burr, which side of the burr the blade's on. If the edge feels like it's grabbing more going one direction, that means, so like if the edge is grabbing when I'm pulling my thumb this way, that means the burr is over here, and I want to take the stone and stone this edge. If same thing, if I'm pulling over here and it feels like it's more over here, then I want to stone this edge. You can think of it as like if there was like a little piece of tin foil stuck on the edge of the blade and it was folded over in one direction or another. Sometimes if you have a really bad burr, you can actually feel it with your thumbnail. If you like pull your thumbnail up, you can feel it catch. There's really no burr on this axe right now. It's pretty sharp. I'll run the stone over a little bit more. Just put a really nice edge on it. Then it'll be ready to use next time. So now the last step after I'm done sharpening, I just want to wipe all the water from the stone off, because there's always a little bit of water that gets on from the stone. And then I got my bottle of oil here. I'm just going to put a drop or two of oil on the blade where I sharpened it. Take my finger in the rag. Just wipe the oil over. You don't have to get it all off, because the point is that it's on there. You don't want blobs of it on there, but cover most of the blade. Put it over and do the same thing on the other side. There we go. Put it back in the sheath here. And that'll do it. That axe is now ready to go back to the woods, limb some more trees. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more content on small-scale sustainable farming. Speaking of content, I'm hoping to do a little bit of a series here on axes next week or the week after. Hopefully I'll get to the woods and we can talk a little bit about using them and some of the applications I use them and some of the techniques I use. So that'll be fun. Keep your eye out for that. And I'll see you next time.
I work as a hand in San Saba, fences and windmills to mend. I've been out on a crew eating tumbleweed stew. 3 weeks in the rain and the wind.